It's time for the whole 9 yards. Hello, everyone. I'm Ralph Ventre. It is week 7 of the FCS season. All 7 Northeast Conference teams will be in action. 3 conference games for the first time this season. We'll talk about all that and more. Let's kick off the show with the opening drive. The lone non-league game on the Week 7 docket, the Sacred Heart Pioneers come off a bye to host Ivy League member Dartmouth College. Mark Nofri's team has not lost an out-of-conference game at home since 2014, but it won't be easy keeping that streak alive come Saturday. The Dartmouth Big Green are 4-0 thus far this season, knocking on the door of the top 25. Sacred Heart will likely need a clean effort to succeed in this one. The Pioneers fell to CCSU in their last game before the bye, put up over 500 yards of offense, but fell victim to turnovers and then big plays on defense. You can see Sacred Heart back in action on Saturday, live on NEC Front Row. Pioneers host Dartmouth. Now digging into the conference portion of the Week 7 schedule, we'll start with Central Connecticut. The Red Hot Blue Devils have won 3 in a row, and they'll look for their second conference victory during this week's visit to Wagner. The key for the Blue Devils during this 3-game win streak has been the fact that they're running the ball well. Senior Cameron Nash has 3 consecutive 100-yard rushing performances. And then the CCSU defense has been taking it away from the opposition. The Blue Devils have picked off 8 passes over the past 3 games, multiple takeaways in each of those 3 victories. Meanwhile, Wagner has been bitten by the injury bug in recent weeks. The Seahawks were down to their 3rd-string quarterback in last week's NEC contest at Duquesne. The good news for whichever signal caller is under center for Wagner this week is that the Seahawks are one of the conference's more accomplished running teams. Ryan Folse went over 100 yards in last week's loss, while 2 weeks ago, Denzel Knight earned NEC honors for his big performance against Lehigh. This game is an especially important one for Wagner if it hopes to get back in the race for the NEC title. The Seahawks have dropped their first 2 games on the league schedule. They'll look to break into the NEC win column, hosting CCSU live on Front Row. Defending NEC champion St. Francis hops back into conference play this week. The Red Flash are coming off of back-to-back road games at Big South members. SFU has been one of the nation's top teams in terms of turnover margin over the season's first few weeks. Heading into Week 7, the Red Flash are tied atop the FCS with North Dakota State with a plus 240 per game TO margin. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in Saturday's matchup in Smithfield. The host Bryan Bulldogs have been able to move the ball up and down the field this season, but have fallen victim to an NEC high 18 turnovers. Another element to focus on in what will be the first NEC game for Bryant's head coach James Perry, well, that would be Bryant's pass offense against the Red Flash pass defense. The Bulldogs are averaging a league-high 354 pass yards per game. Meanwhile, the Red Flash have limited their opponents to only 2 touchdown passes in 5 games and a measly 5.5 yards per pass attempt. Watch live on Front Row to see how it all unfolds. The Red Flash in Smithfield to take on the pass-happy Bulldogs. In our featured game of the week, it's Robert Morris hosting Duquesne in the annual Steel City Showdown. This one will air live on ESPN3 and Watch ESPN app. Paul Dottino and Kevin Gilbride will have the call live from Moon Township. Now, Duquesne has dominated this series in recent years in terms of wins and losses. Dukes have won the last 4, but 3 of those 4 games have been decided by single-digit margins. It certainly sounds cliche, but this is a real rivalry game. It seems to mean something more to these two teams, not to mention the fact that a conference victory is on the line in this one. It'll be the 10th time that these two rivals have clashed since the Dukes joined the Northeast Conference for the 2008 season. Saturday's Steel City Showdown could turn out to be a battle of the NEC's top-ranked pass defense, Robert Morris. The Colonials have allowed only 810 pass yards total this season against one of the NEC's top passing attacks. First-year starting quarterback Tommy Stewart and the Duquesne Dukes lead the NEC in completion percentage and passing touchdowns. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this Saturday evening affair, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Duquesne at Robert Morris on the Watch ESPN app and ESPN3. It's time for a quick examination of the NEC stock market. We'll see whose value is on the way up. I briefly mentioned CCSU's recent rushing success in today's opening drive. Yes, Cameron Nash has 3 consecutive 100-yard games, but he's not the only culprit behind this recent surge. It's only right to show some love to Drew Jean-Guillaume. The running back averaged 7.6 yards per carry in last week's victory over Penn. He scored a touchdown on the ground and through the air. Jean-Guillaume was CCSU's leading receiver with 6 catches for 61 yards in the 42-21 victory. A week earlier, he took a pass 70 yards for a touchdown in an NEC victory over Sacred Heart. And during CCSU's 3-game win streak, Jean-Guillaume has scored 5 touchdowns. The Blue Devils are in a groove, and Drew Jean-Guillaume's stock is on the way up. I'd like to take my Twitter time out. This week's tweet comes from Duquesne sophomore running back A.J. Hines. He's happy to be back in the lineup. He says he's focused. He calls himself a humble beast. And quite frankly, it seems pretty accurate. He showed his beast mode tendencies as a freshman, racking up nearly 1,500 yards from scrimmage and going on to win the Stats Jerry Rice Award as the top freshman player in the FCS. As far as the humility aspect goes, from everyone I've spoken to about AJ, he seems to be a rather quiet young man who lets his play do the talking. Word is that he entered the 2017 preseason in phenomenal physical condition, but he hit a bit of a speed bump when he was injured in early September. Hines had carried 11 times for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in Duquesne's Week 2 win at Valpo before going out with an injury. He missed 2 games sandwiched around a bye week, but he returned just in time for the Dukes NEC opener against Wagner, and he opened the game scoring with a 33-yard touchdown scamper. A.J. Hines, it's good to see you back on the bluff. Hut, hut, toot, hut, Omaha, Omaha. It's time for the NEC Audible. This week's featured soundbite comes to us by way of Smithfield. Bryant's veteran defensive tackle Kevin Lazo seems rather excited about the start of conference play.
Well, now, just like I said, I was going to go into the locker room on starting Tuesday and just write 0-0. We are now on a clean slate. We're moving forward, and this is where we need to lock in and where essentially it does matter because we want to start off the conference strong, especially against a very strong opponent like St. Francis. So starting that off and getting that note going and moving the train into conference play, I think that's very important.
A new season and a prime opportunity begin for Lazo and the Bulldogs Saturday. Don't forget to watch it on NEC Front Row. You know, that's amazing. When taking a closer look at Duquesne's 38-0 victory over Wagner in Week 6, the Duke's first shutout since 2014, Brett Zanotto's name jumps off the page. The sophomore linebacker who began his collegiate career at Big Ten member Maryland totaled 8 tackles in the 38-0 win, with 7 of those stops limiting the opposition to a 2-yard gain or less. He finished the game with 2.5 hits for a loss, and in the first half alone, he made 4 stops on run plays. Wagner netted a total of -2 rushing yards on those 4 snaps. Brett Zanotto's defensive performance in Week 6, well, that's amazing. Now it's time to share a fun fact with our NEC Front Row viewers. Did you know that there will be biological brothers playing on opposite sides of Saturday's Steel City Showdown? Stu and Drew Allen. You can read all about them in a wonderful feature story from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Check it out as Omari Sankofa gives the story of how Stu and Drew wound up on the opposite sides of one of the NEC's most intense rivalries. So that'll do it for our Week 7 show. All 7 NEC teams in action, 3 conference contests. We have our featured game of the week on ESPN3. Robert Morris hosting Duquesne. The other 3 games air live on NECFrontRow.com. The pace is picking up. The stakes are rising by the week. Get out there and enjoy some NEC football. And as always, thank you for watching the whole 9 yards. I'm Ralph Ventre for NEC Front Row. I'll see you again next week.